explosions, I was a bit fearful, more than usual.
Dramatic and deadly bombardments today in Lebanon, where people say it feels like war has begun between Israel and Hezbollah, putting millions of lives at risk. I'm Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. Tonight, Israel and Hezbollah appear to be on the brink of war. Nearly 500 people killed, including nearly 24 children, after Israeli airstrikes rained down across the country. Israel says their forces hit over 1,600 Hezbollah targets. You can see there, most of that happening in southern Lebanon. People there now fleeing for their lives after a warning from Israel's military to get out of harm's way, something Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was quick to double down on.
Now, starting this morning, the IDF has warned you to get out of harm's way. I urge you, take this warning seriously.
The woman there saying this is right outside of our house. Israeli fighter jets trying to take out another Hezbollah top commander in Beirut today. Still no official word on whether that airstrike was successful. Meanwhile, across the border in northern Israel.
I think we need to go inside. That's really close to us.
The IDF says over 100 rockets and other projectiles crossed into Israel from Lebanon today, most of them intercepted by Israel's anti-missile defense system. No deaths were reported. And our team is standing by to bring you the latest as people on both sides of the border hunker down for what could be a long, drawn-out war. And NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from Beirut. Matt, to put this bluntly, is this war? And if it's not, how far are we from the precipice here?
Yeah, Gadi, I mean, you know that I've been talking to you about this for the past year, and that is a great question. Is this it? Is this the big one? Because we've been forecasting this, we've been predicting it for so long, and I've been here sitting asking the same question to myself and my team. This really does look like the big one. Now, we don't know exactly what's going to be happening next, but looking at what came ahead last week with the pager and the walkie-talkie explosions that maimed so many of those Hezbollah commandos, and now with the massive wave of strikes we've been seeing all across southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley, and even at least once today, here in the southern suburbs of Beirut, where Hezbollah has its headquarters, it does look as though the Israelis are preparing for something even bigger. Now, whether that means a ground invasion, which is what everybody here is fearing, or whether that means just more airstrikes and more attacks, it's hard to know. But we're seeing nearly 500 people killed in just one day. That's not just the largest amount of Lebanese people who have been killed ever since the 2006 war. It well exceeds that. It probably is the largest number killed in one day ever since possibly the Civil War back in the 70s and 80s. So this is a massive uptick, even though we have been seeing a lot of violence over the border between Lebanon and Israel ever since October 7th. But this really does look like it's signaling something much, much worse to come. Gadi?
And Matt, you're in Beirut right now. What's it like in the city? And can you tell us a little bit more about the attempted assassination of one of Hezbollah's top military leaders today?
Yeah, well, that was an attack that struck one of Hezbollah's buildings in Dahia, what I just mentioned, that southern suburb of Beirut, where Hezbollah maintains, well, a lot of commandos, a lot of loyalists, a lot of support from the public. It's a Shiite neighborhood of Beirut, and we've been seeing this time and time again by the Israelis. That's kind of their MO when it comes to attacking Hezbollah. They seem to be trying to both go after the infrastructure, a lot of these missile silos, but also decapitating the organization by hitting a lot of its top commanders. Again, that all looks very much like they're preparing some sort of broader offensive to try to take on the organization as a whole. But again, here in Beirut, you know, the mood is not appreciably different from what I've seen in the past. This is a city, a country that is tragically quite used to violence and quite used to war and Israeli bombardments. But there is a sense of palpable tension that I haven't really seen during my past trips. everybody here is waiting for the worst, not just for an Israeli ground invasion, which was what a lot of people are worried about, but also about an increased attacks from projectiles from the Israelis, and also having to deal and support all of those, what looks like tens of thousands of displaced people who are now crowding on the streets of Lebanon, flooding into the northern part of the country. This is something that this country can't afford. It's in the 5th year of an economic crisis, and that's why this has been such a problem for this country, even beyond the threat of war. Gadi?
Are we seeing a lot more people starting to evacuate in the south? I know that there have been calls to evacuate from Israel. What's going on there? Are people fleeing their homes yet?
Tens of thousands, huge numbers, and actually you're seeing them snarled up in what looks like just miles and miles long traffic jams as so many people are trying to flee the south and heading north. And again, Gadi, this is remarkably different from what we've seen in the past. This country has endured threats and violence for generations, and over the past year, it's seen a lot of threats from the Israelis as Hezbollah and the Israelis have exchanged fire. But this just goes to show that these threats are taken more seriously by the Lebanese people than they have been over the past year. And that's why you're seeing these roads just clogged with people desperate to leave southern Lebanon. Gadi?
And this Israeli claim that Hezbollah is storing missiles and rockets among the civilian population and in civilian homes. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, that what looks like the kind of the next shoe to drop here, because the Israelis have said that this is something that is going on in private homes, which makes it look as though they're about to start striking private civilian homes that they say are being used as human shields in order to protect launching sites or missile silos that are being used to strike Israeli positions over the border. So that's why another reason why this is so threatening. The Israelis even went on Lebanese radio to say in Arabic to people that they needed to leave their homes, especially if they're housing Hezbollah rockets. So it looks as though we saw that, the walkie-talkies and the pager explosions. The Israelis have made a couple of broadsides over the past week that just go to show how much intelligence they have about Hezbollah's capabilities. A lot of folks here, after seeing that, pagers exploding in the hands of Hezbollah militants, they know that Israel is quite literally in their pockets, knows where they live, knows who they are, and that's why you're seeing such panic on the streets of southern Lebanon and eventually probably here in the capital, Beirut. Gadi?
Matt Bradley with such critical on-the-ground reporting there in Beirut. Matt, thank you. An NBC News military analyst and Medal of Honor recipient Colonel Jack Jacobs joins us now. Colonel, thanks so much for being with us. This is the deadliest day of conflict there since the 2006 war with Israel, which we just heard from Matt. Do you see this as all-out war now? Is there any going back? Any going back from this?
Well, you can always go back, but it certainly looks like war when you have two groups of people ardently trying to kill one another. That's war in anybody's definition. But the kinds of things, targets Israel has been going after would indicate that that's the kind of thing that you do before you're going to have a ground assault. You hit command and control nodes, communications nodes, ammunition dumps. You saw a lot of the explosions that took place had lots of secondary explosions afterwards that would indicate that those were ammunition dumps, transportation hubs and so on. That's usually a precursor to a ground invasion, although Israel would be loath to go in on the ground just yet because it doesn't have the people on active duty in order to do it, Gadi.
On the flip side, we hear people saying, no, the calculus here is that Israel scales up these attacks so much, Hezbollah maybe pulls back a little bit. Do you buy that at all?
Well, that's what Israel's hoping for. They would not like to get involved in another ground invasion, certainly not having a two-front war. They don't want to go back into Lebanon. 20 years ago, they didn't like it very much. They'd have to be able to secure that entire area. It takes a lot of troops, very labor-intensive, time-intensive, capital-intensive. So what they would like to do is see if they can get Hezbollah to quit what they're doing, dismantle the forward positions that they have, stop shooting rockets into Israel. Hezbollah, for its part, has said they're not going to stop doing that until until the conflict stops in Gaza. So it looks like Israel will continue to hit southern Lebanon until one of two things happens. Either Hezbollah does say, well, we give up for the time being, at least anyway, or they don't, and Israel will be forced to conduct a ground invasion, Gadi.
Yeah. We've seen the capabilities of the IDF for quite some time now, especially on the ground with some staggering results out of Gaza. Gaza streets are in rubble right now. But what about Hezbollah's capabilities? What could an escalation with them possibly look like, especially when you take into consideration Iran? Well,
Hezbollah is far more formidable an adversary than Hamas ever was or ever will be. Hezbollah is very well trained by Iran and very well supplied by Iran. Israel's tried to reduce Hezbollah's capability through destroying its communications capability and the attacks that we see now. But at the end of the day, Hezbollah is a formidable force. And in addition to that, Hezbollah has the advantage of terrain, very cross-compartmented terrain. They own the high ground. There are lots of valleys, lots of places where the IDF can be assaulted and ambushed. Israel would not like to go in there if they can possibly avoid it, which is why they're stepping up these indirect attacks like you have now, hoping that Hezbollah will give in. But it remains to be seen whether or not they will.
Yeah, and we saw one of Israel's military leaders say today that they were preparing for the next phase of this conflict. I mean, it does seem like it is just a matter of time before we see a ground invasion.
Well, you'll get a hint of that if the reserves are called up. The IDF has the large majority of its forces in reserve. It would have to call them up, put them, get them all suited up, and put them in assembly areas in near southern Lebanon. All this will be telegraphed easily. It will be able to be seen everywhere that this is going to happen. And Israel might do that in order to threaten Hezbollah further and hope that before a ground invasion, Hezbollah says, don't invade. OK, we'll give in at least for the time being. But you'll get a big hint about what's going to happen next if Israel calls up its reserves, 200, 300,000, and puts them in assembly areas ready to attack, Gadi.
Something we will be watching for very closely. Colonel Jack Jacobs, thanks for being with us tonight. And the United Nations General Assembly kicked off today in New York, and among the world leaders in attendance, Iran's new president and vice president. NBC's Andrea Mitchell sat down with both of them today.
With Israel and Hezbollah exchanging airstrikes. Israel exploding pagers in Lebanon, according to U.S. officials. Iran's new leaders today accusing Israel of trying to trap them into a wider war. In his first U.S. interview, the new vice president, Javad Zarif, tells me Iran does not want that.
We want to move in a more peaceful, more stable world. We don't seek war, but we will defend ourselves.
A real provocation to Iran, the assassination of Hamas's political leader in Tehran, as Iran was inaugurating its new president, which U.S. officials say was done by Israel.
That was clearly an act of state terrorism and a clear violation of our sovereignty and our territorial integrity. We were asked by the international community to exercise restraint in order to bring about an end to the war in Gaza. Unfortunately, that promise has never materialized.
You won't rule out retaliating?
No, we have said that we will respond in a manner of our choosing.
Zarif was the key negotiator of the 2015 nuclear deal, which President Trump pulled out of in 2018. With no more restraints, the U.S. says Iran is now 1 or 2 weeks from having enough nuclear fuel for a bomb.
It was the miscalculation of the Trump administration that withdrew from the nuclear deal. It has been a lose-lose situation.
It's not likely the administration would restart nuclear talks this close to an election. With 100 world leaders here guarded by the Secret Service, the agency, though challenged, says the city is safe.
Andrea, thank you. And we are just getting a look at new evidence against Ryan Ruth, the gunman arrested at Donald Trump's golf course last week. That evidence is a note prosecutors say was placed inside a box that Ruth left at a friend's house in North Carolina. And according to the feds, that note says, quote, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you." Ruth will now remain in jail while he awaits his trial. And also today, the Trump campaign released a statement accusing the Justice Department and the FBI of, quote, mishandling and downplaying what he calls the second attempt on his life, and calling the charges against Ruth, which right now are 2 gun charges, a, quote, slap on the wrist. NBC's Jesse Kirsch joins us now. Jesse, the letter is very direct, to the point there. Whose house did he drop it off at, and what was he trying to get at?
Oh, God, I should say we don't know much about this letter. We also don't know definitively that Ruth wrote this letter. Authorities in what is called a proffer from the prosecution, bunch of pieces of evidence and timeline that they lay out for the court, specify that a civilian witness, that is how it is described, came forward in the days after this apparent assassination attempt and shared this box, which included this letter, according to authorities. Today in court, a special agent from the FBI was asked if a handwriting analysis had been done on this letter yet, and the special agent said there had not yet been one done. So in other words, we do not have officials at this point saying definitively Ruth wrote that letter. However, they are saying that Ruth allegedly gave this letter to someone as part of several pieces of content in a box that was then turned over to authorities in recent days.
And Jesse, Trump is saying that the charges are a slap on the wrist. Could we see new charges brought against him now?
Yeah, and to be clear, this is early days in the investigation. That right now, Ruth faces 2 weapons charges in connection with alleged possession of the rifle that was found at the scene, in which, by the way, authorities say they recovered one of Ruth's fingerprints from, or preliminarily it shows it's his fingerprint. But in court, very early on in these proceedings today, the prosecutor said bluntly that they plan to bring evidence forward to a grand jury in the days to come, alleging a charge of attempted assassination by Ruth upon Mr. Trump. So they are saying, bottom line, they believe Ruth was in South Florida for one reason, and that was to kill the former president. That is the allegation from prosecutors. And so the expectation is we will see a charge against Ruth to that effect in the days to come, Gadi.
Jesse Kirsch, thank you. And now to Pennsylvania, where a small town, much like Springfield, Ohio, finds itself the target of Donald Trump's Haitian migrant conspiracy theories. NBC's Yamiche Alcindor has more.
Tonight, another city with a growing Haitian population on edge after more inaccurate claims from former President Trump.
Charleroi has experienced a 2,000% increase in the population of Haitian migrants under Kamala Harris. The schools are scrambling to hire translators for the influx of students, and the town is virtually bankrupt.
Here in Charleroi, Pennsylvania, just like in Springfield, Ohio, local Republicans say Haitians have been an asset to the community.
The Haitian immigrants here have a very good reputation. Problem is that the federal government dumped these people in and aren't providing any resources.
In recent years, many came legally to Charleroi to work at the local meat processing facility, like Pierre Richard Montplaisir.
Do you think that what former President Trump is saying is true, that Haitians are having a negative impact here?
No. When I came here like 4 years ago, so the town was a ghost town. And now we got a group of people that are working and paying tax.
Montplaisir also works as an interpreter for the school system. 5 years ago, 12 students were learning English as non-native speakers. This year, that number is 225.
We believe now diversity is our superpower.
But Superintendent Ed Zelich says the state has provided additional funding.
We're not struggling. Are there more things we would like to have? Absolutely. But I think any school district would be able to say that.
Misty Cassidy disagrees.
There's just so many people, and there's just not enough resources. There's not enough jobs. There's not enough homes.
She's glad Trump, who she supports, has been calling attention to Charleroi and Springfield.
People need to know that it's just not Springfield. This is coming to a town near you.
What is coming to a town near you?
Haitians or immigrants that have poured over the border within the last couple of years.
Why is that a bad thing, given the fact that some would say the United States is a nation of immigrants?
They're not coming here to assimilate with us. They're coming here to take over, it seems.
But Montplaisir says Trump's comments are harmful. How worried are you that what happened in Springfield with the threats and the harassment that Haitian immigrants, that they might happen here?
Yes, that's why they are afraid about it. That's why some of them want to leave the town.
Yamiche Alcindor, NBC News, Charleroi, Pennsylvania.
And all this as we are only 43 days away from Election Day, and that means we have a lot of new polls, a lot of new numbers to break down. And there's a new national NBC poll out this weekend that's showing Vice President Harris keeping a steady lead over former President Trump. The head-to-head general election matchup showing Harris 5 points ahead of Trump among registered voters, which is within the margin of error there. Harris is also being seen as the better change candidate against Trump, leading there by almost 10 points. Now, while this is the picture our own national poll is starting to show, new polling out of the Sun Belt states, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, show former President Trump maintaining a lead among voters who say their lives got better when he was president. North Carolina, that key swing state which Trump won in 2020, is showing the former president ahead as well. NBC News' Steve Kornacki is at the big board with a lot more of the NBC numbers. Hey there, Steve. What can you tell us?
All right, Gadi. Well, the headline here, Kamala Harris now in our poll with a 5-point advantage over Donald Trump. And put this in some perspective, this is the first time we've tested Harris as the Democratic nominee versus Trump. Previously, of course, it had been Biden versus Trump. We had been polling that for some time. And look at all these Biden-Trump numbers going back over the last year. Trump led by 2, by 3, by 5, by 2. There was a tie a year ago, September 2023. And now, in this first poll that's Harris versus Trump, it's Harris suddenly ahead by 5. First time the Democrats have had a lead here. It's Harris running at 49%. That eclipses easily anything Biden was putting up over the last year. So just a big picture here when you zoom out. This shows you how changed the landscape of this campaign was by Harris replacing Biden a couple months ago. Also, there is this interesting Biden, the unpopular incumbent president, Harris, the incumbent vice president, part of that administration. But when we asked voters which of these candidates better represents change, Harris getting the better of that than Trump, 47 to 38%. Let's take a deeper look here demographically at what's going into the Harris lead right now. A gender gap, a massive gender gap. Among women, Harris is leading this race by 21 points, 58 to 37. Trump has the advantage among men. It's double digits. It's only 12 points there. That's why Harris is ahead overall. But look, a 21-point Harris lead, a 12-point Trump lead. That's a gender gap right now in our poll of 33 points. If anything like that is what plays out on Election Day, that's just off the charts. Even though we've been talking about gender gaps for a long time, we haven't seen one this big in an election. Let's see if that persists. And also, take a look at this by race. Draw your attention to the black vote, 85-7 for Harris. Now, look, historically, this is typically what Democrats get, the kind of margin they get from black voters. That's a core Democratic constituency, typically. But that's not the level Biden had been running at as the candidate. Democrats had been very worried about Joe Biden not reaching their sort of the levels they expect among black voters. Harris, you could see in our poll at least, she now is doing that. So those are the positive signs for Democrats. They smile at this poll. Now, here's what the Republicans still have to look at and take heart from potentially. Look at this, asking which candidate would be better on sort of a range of issues right here. Harris versus Trump. On the border, on immigration, Trump still with a 21-point advantage. When it was Biden versus Trump, it was 35, but it's still a significant advantage for Trump. Dealing with the economy, again, when it was Biden versus Trump, Trump had a very big advantage here, but Trump still has a 9-point advantage on the economy. The economy, inflation, the border, immigration. Lots of voters say these are their top issues, and Trump retains an advantage on what voters say are some of the most important issues to them. That will certainly keep him in this game.
Steve Kornacki, thank you. And don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. Up next, there's a manhunt still going on right now in Alabama. Police are looking for the shooter responsible for a deadly drive-by this weekend. We're going to have the latest from Birmingham in just a moment. Plus, there is a very big hurricane potential brewing, and it could be the strongest storm to hit the U.S. this season. The forecast is straight ahead. And later this hour, it is California versus the deepfake invasion. New laws are cracking down on sexually charged deepfakes, but those laws are facing some legal challenges. We're going to have team coverage on this story, and you don't want to miss it, so stay tuned.
You can take a picture of a girl going to prom.
I can grab it off of her social media page without her even knowing that I have taken it. Go to any number of these websites that are out there and just upload that picture, and it will use artificial intelligence to undress that person.
Hey, welcome back. The latest on the manhunt in Alabama tonight in just a few minutes. But first, here's some of the headlines that we're watching right now. A man has been charged in a hit-and-run crash that left a young musician dead near Pittsburgh. Now, police say the 25-year-old driver is an undocumented immigrant, and now ICE is involved. Police say he tried to flee the scene and was arrested, and he is facing several charges, including homicide by car and driving without a license. And a Florida woman is safe after a crash left her Porsche dangling from the third floor of a parking garage today. You see it right there. Officials say she accidentally stepped on an accelerator, sending her car through that concrete barrier. You can see that tree really helping keep her and her car up while rescue workers were able to bring her down to safety. And the House of Representatives plans to vote this week on a funding bill as the clock is ticking towards a potential government shutdown. The House is planning to take up the bill by midweek, and if it doesn't pass, the federal government will shut down on October 1st. If it does pass, the next shutdown fight will be in December. And new data from the FBI says violent crimes dropped across the U.S. last year. The FBI is saying murder went down a whole 11.6%, making it the largest single-year decline in 2 decades. The numbers are following a trend of crime easing after the pandemic. And a Russian space capsule landed in Kazakhstan this morning. 2 Russians were on board and spent 374 days on the International Space Station, breaking the record for the longest stay there. American astronaut Tracy Dyson also hitched a ride home in the capsule, and they were in space for 6 months. And right now, there is a manhunt underway in Alabama after a deadly drive-by shooting that killed 4 people and hurt 17 others at a popular lounge. Police are thinking this was a murder-for-hire plot, and it happened on Saturday night outside the Hush Lounge in Birmingham, in a busy area near the University of Alabama. Local leaders say many of the victims were innocent bystanders just caught in the crossfire.
It's easy to see people in a line who most likely are unarmed, because to enter a club, you can't have a weapon on you. And so on one hand, as heinous as this was, it was also one of the most cowardly things we've also seen. They're cowards.
NBC News correspondent Priya Sridhar is in Birmingham with more on what led to this mass shooting. Priya?
That's right, Gadi. Authorities here in Birmingham are still actively trying to figure out who was responsible for this mass shooting that happened here at the Hush Hookah Lounge on Saturday night. The gunman killed 4 people and injured another 17. We did learn earlier today that 12 of those gunshot victims have been released from the hospital. 5 are still hospitalized. We also learned the identities of the victims. They were 3 men and 1 woman who ranged in age from 21 to 27 years old. Now, the police say they do believe that this was a murder for hire situation. So the gunman, they say, came out of a vehicle, opened fire on the crowd that was standing outside of this hookah lounge, then got back into their vehicle and essentially fled. They say they do believe that some of the deceased had a criminal history, and that's what leads them to believe that this was a murder-for-hire incident. Now, I did speak to one of the individuals who was hospitalized after being shot on Saturday. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about that night.
As I'm running, I just see people in front of me kind of going down a little bit. I don't know if they got hit, if they're just hiding, but 5 seconds into running, I can't feel my leg anymore, and I go down. I went into pure survival mode. Even when I had gotten shot, I knew, like, in my head, I was telling myself I'm not going to die right here.
And now authorities are also offering up to a $100,000 reward for any information that might help them track down these gunmen. They do say they believe people in the Birmingham area probably know who is responsible for this. They're also combing through surveillance video from some of the security cameras in these local businesses to try to be able to identify that vehicle, which they hope will then lead them to the shooters, Gadi.
Priya, thank you. And part of Florida's Gulf Coast is under a state of emergency, bracing for impact from what could be the strongest hurricane to hit the U.S. this season. Now, this storm, swirling in the Caribbean, could become a tropical cyclone in the next 24 hours. Then it's expected to rapidly gain strength as it spends time over the Gulf of Mexico before landfall. Mexico and Cuba are also bracing for impacts. Now, once the storm is strong enough, it'll be called Helene, the 8th named storm of hurricane season. NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns joins us now. Bill, that's a lot of time for this to intensify. What's the path looking like right now?
Yeah, honestly, right now, it's almost like the storm wants to use up all that available energy possible and head to Florida. It wants to avoid the Yucatan, it wants to avoid Cuba, it wants to go over extremely warm water in the southern Gulf of Mexico because there's like something called the loop current out there, which is like really warm water, and it wants to feast on all of that and then head to Florida. So, it still has time to change. It does look like we're going to get a hurricane no matter what. It's just a matter of who is going to get it and at what intensity. And the latest thing from the Hurricane Center, kind of splits the uprights right here, going through areas in between Cancun and Havana and then up into the Gulf. Wednesday is the day we expect rapid intensification from a strong tropical storm, likely up to a Category 2, then towards landfall at Category 3. So we're looking at a major hurricane making landfall. At this time, the east coast of Florida, you look okay. Miami, West Palm Beach, all the way to Jacksonville, Daytona Beach looks good. But the west coast of Florida, I'm not going to put you in the clear yet. Just a little bit of shift would put this, cone of uncertainty back inland over the top of Sarasota and Tampa. And this is going to be a big storm. Not only will it be powerful, but large in size. So even if you're not in the cone, far from the center, you're going to have storm surge issues. You're going to have bands of rain, possible tornadoes, and so even some strong winds. So just because it's not on you yet doesn't mean that you're in the clear. But obviously our friends up here to the north, Tallahassee, Perry, Florida, Apalachicola, they call this the Big Bend, Cedar Key. If we get a major hurricane in this region, that's bad news. The water piles up here. Obviously, you get the winds, but then the water would pile up, too. A lot of our computer lines are kind of in excellent agreement, and that's what's interesting about this storm being 72 hours away from landfall. Our American computer model safely off the coast of Tampa here, heading up to the Big Bend. Our European model, which is our most reliable long-range forecast, does exactly the same thing. So in that regard, we do have excellent agreement on this, Gadi, that we're going to get a major hurricane. We're going to get all the wind problems that come with it. We're going to have bad storm surge, especially Thursday morning on the west coast of Florida, and then, as you'd expect, as it moves inland, a big rain event for areas in the southeast. But this has all the earmarks of what possibly could be our country's latest, devastating hurricane. It's just a matter of who's going to get the worst of that eye, and we'll figure that out in the next 2 days.
Yeah, what a dangerous way to end the week. Bill Cairns, Thank you. And coming up, guilty on all counts, the fate of the now convicted Colorado supermarket shooter more than 3 years after he killed 10 people. But first, you got to see this. There's a search on right now for a runaway bull in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. It all started when 8 bulls, that's 8 right there, broke free from a rodeo pen on Sunday. One was quickly wrangled, but the rest charged into traffic, sprinting down streets. Rodeo workers managed to round up 6 more of the herd, but one remains on the loose because apparently it is undiscoverable. Get it? Because it's a bull. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. We are talking about the fight over deepfake technology here in California in just a moment. But first, here's some of the stories happening out west that we're following. The Boulder, Colorado gunman who opened fire in a King Soopers grocery store was found guilty today. Ahmad Alisa was found guilty on all 55 charges, including 10 counts of first-degree murder for each victim of the assault back in 2021. He's been sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The police in Northern California are investigating a smash-and-grab robbery inside a busy mall Sunday afternoon. Now, the 5 suspects were in and out of the K Jewelers in about 2 minutes, and luckily, no one was hurt. And the California Attorney General is suing ExxonMobil for what is being called a decades-long campaign of deception with recycling. The suit claims ExxonMobil promoted recycling as a solution for plastic waste and misled consumers to use their single-use products. ExxonMobil says the state of California is to blame for its plastic recycling failures. And we have all seen deep fake images spread on social media. Some of them seem innocent enough, like this one featuring a fake Tom Cruise singing the cover of a Dave Matthews Band. But others are pretty horrible. Some innocent person's face put in a disgusting situation, and there is very little a victim can do. But NBC's Savannah Sellers has more on how one city's attorneys are trying to fight back.
How was the mouth test?
Yvonne Mere's first priority is being a mom. So a particular New York Times article shocked her.
About a 15-year-old girl whose life had been devastated by a non-consensual image of her that was nude.
That image was what's known as a deep fake, a picture that may be created with a real face, but using artificial intelligence to make a fake body.
When I read it, my own daughter, who's now 16, I thought to myself, this would be horrible.
Mere happens to be in a position to do something about it. In addition to being a mom, she's a top litigator in the San Francisco City Attorney's Office. She shared the article with her colleague, fellow mom and lawyer, Sarah Eisenberg.
How does this work? So there's a lot of different ways. I can take a picture of anyone, anytime.
You can take a picture of a girl going to prom.
I can grab it off of her social media page without her even knowing that I have taken it. Go to any number of these websites that are out there and just upload that picture, and it will use artificial intelligence to undress that person.
Mere and Eisenberg's boss, City Attorney David Chu, gave them the go-ahead to pursue legal action against the practice. They say it resulted in a first-of-its-kind lawsuit naming 16 top websites that create and distribute fake nude images of women and girls without consent.
What we found truly horrified us. There have been over 200 million visitors in just these 16 websites alone.
What do you understand that impact to be?
We know that these images have been used to bully, humiliate, and threaten women and girls. The impact on these victims cannot be underestimated.
Those victims range from massive superstars to high school girls across the country. The suit alleges the practice is not just harmful, it's illegal. They argue even the marketing used by the websites obliterates any notion of consent, pointing out one defendant's advertising. Imagine wasting time taking her out on dates when you can just use the website to get her nudes. Contact information for most of the companies named in the lawsuit could not be found.
They have violated deepfake pornography laws, child pornography laws.
Do you really think there's a chance you can get these websites shut down?
Absolutely. I don't think there's anyone who defends what is happening here. We're talking about everyday people who are seeing their faces turned into pornography and, in too many instances, child pornography.
For Mere and Eisenberg, it's a labor of love, both for their constituents and a little closer to home.
You want to make a difference. You want to look back. I get choked up, like you want to make a difference. This makes a difference.
Do you think about your daughter when you feel that way?
I do. I think about my daughter, and I want her to be proud of me. I want her to be proud of what the office does.
Savannah Sellers, NBC News, San Francisco.
And now let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Angela Sinandela. Angela, big picture here. What are the laws on the books right now about deepfakes?
So deepfakes with regards to pornography. So there is this patchwork of laws across the country, really in different states. So not really a universal federal law, but just independent states that really prohibit deepfake pornography with regards to children, any minors. That is pretty much off the table legally. But now what California is doing and what this lawsuit is really also pushing forward is attempting to criminalize that for adults because no such real law federally exists. Now, in the state of California, though, one was recently signed into law that criminalizes the use of deepfakes of AI-generated imagery that involves sexually explicit content that is used to inflict intentional emotional distress. So that's really about blackmail, about revenge porn, using deepfakes in any way to cause another person harm. If you think about what AI imagery is, it is essentially the manipulation of the truth. So what's happening here is that all these laws are trying to keep up, but they're way behind because the technology has just far surpassed them. But they're trying to keep up to prevent that manipulation of the truth from harming others. Gadi.
Interesting. I mean, hearing you say that, you automatically think of like libel and slander and whatever that version would have been during the founding fathers if they were looking forward to the future. But like, as we live in the day and age that we live in today, like what kind of legal challenges are these laws going to face here? And do we need a new set of laws?
Gadi, that's exactly correct. So if you think about the whole concept of this First Amendment, it is deeply entrenched in our country. Freedom of expression, freedom of speech, whatever we want to say, we're supposed to. But that has limits. And where is that limit? It's if there's not the truth that's involved, and also if it harms another person. So that's literally what all this AI imagery is doing. We're coming up against this confluence of what a person's right to say versus whether or not that truth is harming others. Now, in terms of California explicitly, though, there is a lot of litigation that is forthcoming. It's because this new law not only criminalizes the behavior of someone who distributes it, but also forces social media companies to regulate it. And that's where it comes up against Section 230, which is this federal law that's been deeply entrenched in our society and reconfirmed multiple times by our Supreme Court, which takes away any liability from these social media companies for the user-generated content on that site. So that's where we're going to see federal and state laws conflict, Gadi.
Wow. So this may go up against Section 230 with the state of California, possibly. I mean, real fast, do you see that part of this going before the Supreme Court?
Oh, absolutely, because many of these laws that were just recently passed and signed into law explicitly require social media companies to regulate, to take down anything that they think is deep fake, either sexually explicit, and also election-related misinformation. So that will certainly make its way up to the Supreme Court and is a question ripe for the court to decide, Gadi.
Fascinating. Angela Sinandela, thank you. And just hours ago, Missouri's Supreme Court and governor refused to stop tomorrow's planned execution of a death row inmate after hearing arguments earlier today that his case might have been mishandled. And Marcellus Williams is facing the death penalty for the 1998 murder of a newspaper reporter, Felicia Gale. But he and his lawyers, even a prosecutor from the original trial, say he's innocent, claiming no physical evidence ties him to that crime. Williams has been in a years-long battle to get off death row. An appeal has also been filed with the U.S. Supreme Court, with his execution looming in less than 24 hours. And NBC's national correspondent Yasmin Basugian has more.
Gadi, Marcellus Williams set to be executed in less than 24 hours from now for first-degree murder. The timeline in getting here incredibly convoluted. Let me walk you through that now. In 1998, Felicia Gale stabbed to death in her home. 2001, Marcellus Williams was in fact convicted of first-degree murder, sentenced to death 2 years later. It was 2016 in which DNA testing showed that Williams was not the source of male DNA that was found on the murder weapon. In 2017, hours before he was set to be executed, Williams received a stay of execution from the governor at the time, and the governor convening a board of inquiry to investigate the case. In 2023, the governor, Mike Pearson, dissolving that board without a report and without a recommendation. Williams filing a civil suit against the governor. In 2024, the Missouri Supreme Court dismissing the civil lawsuit, scheduling execution for September 24th. That brings us to today. Oral arguments heard today before the Missouri Supreme Court. Two arguments being made, the two main arguments, I should say, being made this morning. One was that the jury selection process was marred back in 2001, saying, in fact, there was racial bias in selecting those jurors. One attorney admitting to dismissing a juror at the time because they, quote unquote, looked like Marcellus Williams. The other was the DNA testing of the murder weapon, the knife at the time. A prosecuting attorney, along with investigator at the time, admitting to handling the murder weapon without gloves on multiple times, which marred the DNA testing of the murder weapon. Because of those two reasons, the attorney's now arguing, in fact, Marcellus Williams should spend the rest of his life in jail, but not be executed tomorrow. Whether or not that happens is really anybody's guess, Gadi, but we'll have to wait and see.
We'll see. Yasmin, thank you. And coming up, the hot mic moment with some very high geopolitical stakes. Now, rising concerns about tensions between the U.S. and China as Chinese leaders are firing back at some comments made by President Biden. Hey, welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. A roadside bomb hit a convoy of foreign diplomats in Pakistan, killing a police officer and hurting 3 others. So far, no group has claimed responsibility as security forces search for any clues. And Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats narrowly beat the Alternative for Germany party in a Brandenburg state election. The Alternative Party is an anti-migrant party and just weeks ago became the first far-right party to win an election in post-war history. And Pope Francis will sit with Belgium and Luxembourg this week after canceling Monday's audiences due to a flu-like state. The 87-year-old Pope recently returned from an Asia trip and will celebrate the 600th anniversary of Catholic universities in Belgium. And Britain's Princess Kate made her first public appearance since finishing chemotherapy. She attended a church service in Scotland with Prince William on Sunday, and the Princess of Wales recently announced she has completed cancer treatment and will resume public duties. President Biden was caught on a hot mic over the weekend talking about China's aggressive behavior, and the president was talking with foreign leaders at his old high school in Delaware, saying, quote, China continues to behave aggressively, testing us all across the region. NBC international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer has more.
In their opening comments before and a joint statement after the Quad Summit, the leaders made no direct mention of China, even though it's one of their common concerns. But President Biden's hot mic comments not only discuss China as behaving aggressively, quote, testing us all, but he names China's president, Xi Jinping, as wanting to minimize diplomatic friction with the U.S., to buy himself some diplomatic space so that Xi can focus on the domestic economy. And the economy here is struggling. The leadership is under pressure to spark consumer spending with the headwinds of a real estate crisis, inflation, as well as job cuts, and U.S. export bans on technology, as well as tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. President Biden believes diplomacy has worked to avoid conflict in the region, but he says the administration sees Beijing employing a change in tactic, not a change in strategy, meaning from the U.S. perspective, China remains no less ambitious. Chinese officials, meanwhile, see the Quad and the summit as a small clique, as it was called here today, accusing the group of promoting confrontation with China. A spokesperson said, quote, no outside force will shake China's determination to safeguard its territorial sovereignty, maritime rights, and regional peace. Now, a key issue for the Quad is the future of the Quad itself. Japan's prime minister will be replaced later this week in a leadership race. President Biden is leaving the White House. And if Donald Trump wins, it's unclear whether he would continue with the Quad. He's criticized NATO and threatened to pull out. He's also praised Vladimir Putin, exchanged letters with Kim Jong-un. So it isn't certain to what extent the 4 countries would remain strategically aligned.
Janice Mackey-Frayer, thank you. And before we go, it is time for the future of everything. There is a proposed rule that seems straight out of a futuristic Cold War of sorts, while the U.S. is talking about banning smart car technology from China and Russia and what it could mean for car makers and countless of drivers here in the United States. That's the future of smart cars right after this. And in tonight's Future of Everything, what if the cars we were driving turned against us? No, this is not leave the world behind or Skynet scenario, but the U.S. government seems so worried about security that they are right now proposing a ban on smart cars from China and Russia. And we're talking about cars with embedded software from foreign adversaries. Now, the Department of Commerce proposed a ban on the sale or import of smart cars that use specific Chinese or Russian technology because of national security concerns, and everything from the possible collection of personal data to remote sabotage by hacking. So let's bring in Business Insider senior correspondent Ben Bergman to talk a little bit more about this proposed ban. Ben, thanks for being with us. I cannot think of like a more fitting Trojan horse to use against America by an adversary than cars, which were invented here, and cell phones as well, for that matter. Like, is that the concern, or is this more specific?
There's definitely a big concern, and it's not hard to imagine all the things that could go wrong. However, there's not a single Russian technology right now in U.S. cars. And in fact, I think most people will be surprised there's very little Chinese technology as well. So I think the word here is preemptive. The Biden administration just wants to do this before Joe Biden leaves office, and then maybe it'll be an issue down the road.
What kind of tangible impact does this have on the car market here in the United States?
Not a lot right now. The association that represents U.S. car manufacturers is in favor of this. They wanted to make sure there's enough time, and they feel there is, since the hardware component doesn't go into effect until 2030. So it really won't have much of an impact right now.
And what are China and Russia saying about this proposed ban so far?
Well, not surprisingly, China is not happy about it. They see this as more of a national security concern. But China itself doesn't really have a leg to stand on, because they have banned the use of Tesla automobiles by certain members of people in China.
And I don't know about your algorithm or how much time you spend on TikTok, but my TikTok algorithm has been showing me all of these like glowing reviews of some relatively cheap, very technologically advanced cars in China recently. I don't know if we have some to show here, but they do kind of force you to wonder, like, why can't you find some of these Chinese cars already here in the United States? That was like lay flat seats inside of a car. All of it seems very coincidental to me, but why don't we already see Chinese cars in our market?
Yeah, I'm not getting that on my TikTok, but maybe that's why they want to ban TikTok so badly, because it makes you want these products. But this is another thing that the Biden administration did earlier this year. They put 100% tariffs on Chinese cars coming to the U.S. The thing is, there's no Chinese cars really available in the U.S. You see them now in Europe. But I think there's concern that down the road that U.S. consumers would want these cars because they're a lot cheaper, and that would undercut manufacturers from Tesla on down.
I mean, I get technology, but like Detroit, I hopefully is paying attention, because there's no technology that beats lay flat passenger seats. Fingers crossed we get those in some American cars soon. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks a lot.
And that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.